Come to the door.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second to start recording. Just waiting for it to extra time to start the streaming for you.
No, you're good.
Okay, you started?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome to the last annual CoCoFEST. Sorry, I've been enough to them, I lost the count.
31.
31. I was thinking 31, but I figured as soon as I said it, I'd be wrong.
No, you're right.
And so we're going to today talk about a little bit of hardware, software development, some insights into it. We have some people here. I have another game programmer here that did a pretty nice game way back in the day. And he's contributed some cool stuff to on the web for developers and stuff. He did the X0 compression, converted it for the Coco, saved people a lot of work and made it notice to us and needed to do some compressions. It works pretty well. I have it using in some future games, already coding and doing things with that. So thank you for your work there. And so most of you guys have been to my my booth. So let's catch if you have any outstanding questions so we can there. Anybody have outstanding questions you'd like to ask according to things that we may have seen at the booth I could focus on first? Or should I just go with my kind of plan I'm doing it? Because I'm kind of waiting this thing to be able to take questions and stuff with people to focus on what people might be interested in.
I think just go on with the normal instead of being able to set specific questions.
Okay. Looks like I'll just go ahead and go. So one of the big things I've been doing, and it's a kind of big and long project, has been my CoCo 3D printing replacement kind of project. Okay. And so I've been doing a lot of different things with that. The first results most people have seen has been the Coco Pi case. And so many people seen that I didn't bother to bring that over here today into the meeting, the presentation room. And so I have a couple items in that project that people have not seen, especially that they've not shown. And one of those items I'm doing is, again, AMC10 is a CoCo. So it is the case is being modeled for it as well. And it's a lot simpler design case. There's a lot of details that's not on here that I actually have a model of, but it will not print on the 3D printer for the nozzle size I'm doing. So the actual file that I use to print doesn't have those details in it, but I've actually gone to model to detail the ridges and the label and stuff on the top case. I have just done at home the first print of the bottom, which is kind of test sizing. And slicers are picky, and they didn't create all the pillars and stuff for the screws in. So, I couldn't attach it to show it for the show. I got to go back and rework that even to get something usable for test size. But this prints pretty nice flat down, so it does print a lot faster than a Coco 3 or Coco 2 case will print, because you cannot print it. They don't have a flat edge side that you can lay down on the print bed. But it looks rather nice. Did red, because Alice one looks kind of pretty.
That was from the Alice.
Okay. Actually, the code name for the file list is Malice. And it's there. There's also some other ideas of using this shape lends it to a possibility of some other things being done for making it look nicer. Not definitely non-stop things to do with it, but there's some things I can do with to dress up the look that we haven't seen anything done in the Coco. Oh,
Quick question for you. Are you involved with the riser that Brendan's doing with the putting like the Coco VJ and stuff inside of it?
no, he's actually done all of that stuff himself.
Okay.
And I did accidentally forget to bring over the joystick CAD here today. I can bring up a CAD file. We can talk about it. So I have talked with him because I actually have another design for top for this
That's kind of pretty extended.
that looks more like a cocoa top.
Okay.
I name it look cocoa. And I just thought it would be cool, to have, AMC 10 that looked like a cocoa, looked like it was a family member instead of some remote cousin. So it's just the stuff that I could do once I have all the placements and stuff you could do. Once you have the original model, you have a starting point where everything attached, and then you can expand from there. And that's been one of the things, the reason for this is I've seen some pretty butchered cases, especially this show, and I like cringe. I know back in the day, probably when they were originally cut, they were plentiful, but now they're getting rare, and you think, oh, let's hopefully not destroy any more cases unless we have to, which was one of the reasons for starting the CoCo 3D case project. To get replacement things so we can modify these things and then keep the original case safe and so on. But after I started that, people started contacting me. They're actually breeding replacement boards, okay, that will drop in the CoCo. Most notably, that's Rocky Hill, Roger Pena, I
I'm
believe.
not sure if I'm pronouncing that correct. Pedro Pena, is that his name?
Pedro, okay, Pedro Pena. And not getting a lot of sleep up here.
Me neither.
And so, and then the latest has been Alan from the AC Retro, 8-bit Retro show. He's got an FPGA based board that he's working on. And I actually started on it a long time ago when things were being talked about. They was going to do some things. Maybe Ed Snyder was talking about maybe doing something else and stuff. And I started on the design of the case, and several people spoke up, oh, well, we're going to be making cases. And one was a suggestion they might be able to get injection molded case. Well, at the hint that they had somebody, a professional designer, and maybe connections to, plastic molding industry, okay, that outranks me on money-wise. Basically, the project was dropped. But by that time, I'd actually printed a half-size top position a model of the CoCo case. So basically, I had done a proof of concept. Yes, this can be printed.
I think you showed it last year, Fest.
I don't know if
Or did we see it on the show they did here?
I don't remember. I think I showed it online once, maybe. I don't know where that's at right now. So I don't know if I did it last year or not showed yet. But, basically it was something similar in size to the MC10 and, modeled for that. And so that was kind of my proof of concept. And with, people coming out, well, we're making this, we're going to do metal bending stuff and, cases. So we had multiple people that spoke up and did things and like, it's okay. It's supposed to be D and done. I'm not going to compete against somebody that has a bunch of money to throw at it, which I obviously don't have. And a molded case is, superior, better than doing the 3D printed case in the vast majority of the situation. Other communities has had the luck, I will call it luck, of finding original molds. I think some of those have been done in the Commodore community, and they've been able to run off, new cases from the old molds. We have not had that situation in the color computer community. And so we don't have that stuff. Talking to, cases in 3D printing, you can do some pretty nice stuff. But I did this because it's a two color one. But if I wasn't at the time of doing this, if I wasn't doing something spatial, and definitely I'm going to contact John Linville or any of those that carried an injection molded case. It's a much nicer case. But this fits so much more for my game, and makes it stand out. So this was the reason. John Linville had pre-informed me that they were working on a case that was probably going to happen, but I had already started the design before they announced it was going to be available. And he kind of thought, why are you doing it? Until he seen my case, and then he understood perfectly why I went ahead and did the non-injected motor case. But if you got an injected motor case, you know, 99 out of the time, it's better to use that case. And I think they did a really job with the game cartridge case, really good job. But my stuff is kind of building on those things that's happening. And so that's really nice. But, you know, we have other things that's going on. A lot of people are going to the Cocoa Pie, and there's multiple reasons for that. One, they have the cocoa, but they can do the stuff on the Cocoa Pie, so they, you know, the cocoa is sitting there that's like honored and praised and not used until they have something they can't do on the Cocoa Pie. And it saves wear and tear on the power supplies and the switches and so on. And I totally understand that, because most of my stuff in development is done, you know, through the emulators and stuff. And the final assembly and stuff of my code is done on a real Cocoa. But a lot of it is done on that. Well, I actually do it on the emulator. I could do it on the Cocoa, but, you know, it could be assembled on the Cocoa, well, what I have. So there's an amount of the purists are, well, you know, I like the Cocoa, and I want to be, it must run on the Cocoa and do that. How much wear and tear do I want to put on that machine these days? You know,
Plus speed.
Yeah. And speed is a big issue when you're doing development. Okay. And, you know, so that's kind of the really thing. And so this is what we kind of started and propelled the project. We have the Cocoa Pie has been available. I actually, Eric here is people who don't want to put together the Cocoa Pie in the South. He's been putting them together, buying the cases from me and making them available for the people who don't want to gather up all the cables and stuff. And so it makes it so it's there, it's getting there to use. Well, last year, before PCS, about a month, Glenside contacted me and says, hey, can you do something for a monitor? You know, we got the Cocoa Pie, we want a Cocoa Pie, one of your Cocoa Pie cases, but we need to make the monitor also look retro to go with it. You know, because we don't want to look Cocoa out there, because they have software they use for the membership and everything that has to run on something like Cocoa, just because the Cocoa kind of runs too slow for the amount of volume we get through here in the morning, for one thing. They want to get everybody checked in real quick. And so I said, well, yeah, what's the time frame? Okay, so well, I did one. And I just finally got down to getting mine finished. Well, I got to still do the stand, and I'm going to have to stand up just a little bit here to show it. And I could actually plug this into the laptop, and it's a touch screen, external monitor, okay, and a 3D printed case, so it looks retro, so it looks in your system, you know, and it doesn't, you know, really looks pretty nice. I've got some tweaks to do on the design and everything, but again, this is like version 2, you know, and it's really very early on a 3D print revisions, you know. You get one that works, and okay, I need to make these change, it makes a little change. Use a different real plastic and it spreads out a little differently. Oh, I gotta adjust for this. So there's a lot of tweaks and everything you have to do with it. So it's basically designed for manufacturing. They call it, if you're in industry, they call it, you have to design it for how you're manufactured. So we have those things done. At a request, somebody want the game cartridge holders, if you want to store them in anything. They're basically gone, you know. You can't get those. So, hey, you can get them. Maybe not to be the same thing, but if you want something convenient, you can do that. And so with this stuff, you have to do the CAD work to design all this. And, you know, the tools you have available, you know, make a lot of difference. And there's things, I think you can get a free version of Fusion 360. I had one time, I haven't seen how to get that back again. It has extreme learning curve. I looked at it. I'm more used to a little bit more traditional CAD. I did have a couple classes back in college a long time ago, about the time that AutoCAD was starting to go to Windows. Some of the others, the learning curve styles are really hefty. And then something recently came available if you have a high-end graphic cards and PCs, and that's SolidWorks has made available a subscription version for hobbyists at about $10 a month. But it's requiring a pretty hefty PC to be able to run it, especially on the video card. This is a fairly hefty, but it's a gaming oriented, and it doesn't even like it. It's got the video display here will be actually running off the second video card in here, the way this is designed. And so it's actually accelerated video and stuff going like the display you guys are seeing, but it's not even powerful enough to run the from that, you know. So, you know, I'm stuck at using low-cost FreeCAD, which has its share of, you know, quirks and problems. And so let's bring FreeCAD. Okay. And this, okay, this is one of the models I have of a full-size case for CoCo 3. You'll notice at the cartridge size port, there's some things under that. That is how to stabilize the print. It is so thin it cuts out easily away from it, but designed to help to decrease the warp with the plastic and pulling from the bed. So when you do this, you have to have things to handle how it's manufactured. And so we have that. We have, again, with what you just seen on the monitor, I have some extra tabs, really thin, so they trim off really easy to help secure it a little bit better to the print bed so it doesn't pull off as easy. So you have to do that kind of things for the manufacturing. I have also 2 resin printers, and then what you have to do with that is totally different set of things to stabilize the print and make sure they're well. And like I said, I apologize. I was intending to bring a new joystick over here and forgot to grab it out of the bag over there. And we are in the process of going through my prototype stages for fit and everything, a new CoCo joypad. And we should be able to bring up a CAD file of that here in just a moment. Yeah. Okay. So this design is printable both in a resin print or with what I want to call a more traditional filament printing. It looks really pretty good in both, okay? But it looks really exceptional and looks like a manufactured one when you do it in the resin. And most of the people here in the room have seen that actually.
That's that blue one you have your table?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Curtis will say it there. And I really think it's one of the things that it's going to help take us to the next level with the CoCo that still be CoCo. Okay, this could have been done by a manufacturer back in the day, okay, and worked. It doesn't require, the only thing that's new technology is the ability for me as an individual to make a case of this quality and this style, okay? Inside of it is old school, okay? And it has 6 buttons. It's got what I want to call the paddle buttons, or the front buttons. Do that? Yeah. And so you use those with your fingers, and those are designed, they're going to be fire 1, fire 2. And the 4 buttons, when you use the 4-button mode, I plan to have a compatible mode with a switch on here and the 6-button mode, okay? It plugs via cable into a standard joystick port, okay? In the compatible mode, you'll be able to read it just like a standard Atari style switching joystick controller, and use anything written that'll do that, which is a lot of the arcade action games and so on. It won't do games like Double Back that requires a full analog, or my Bomb Squad that requires analogs. Gems requires an analog joystick. There's But a lot of, if your arcade style, well, you can use the, just a switching joystick. And we really haven't had a joypad, okay, for the
Yeah,
Coco.
there's been adapters to, hook up a Genesis or something.
Yeah, there's been adapters.
But not a native one that doesn't
Yeah.
require an adapter.
Right. There's been adapters, and there's some very nice adapters out there, okay, that for the Sega that will support the extra buttons, okay? But it does require extra programming and understanding how things work to be able to read it there. A great idea. And I wouldn't have thought of this if that was not out there, most likely. Okay? And in fact, questions by John Linville, which actually got me thinking on the bound up path and ended up this. I'll explain that in a moment. These are the directional control it will be hooked up to one axis of the joystick. The 4 buttons are hooked up to the other axis. And you just read it like a general read, and then you're going to handle that data that's equal to 63 differently than you would in a normal game. But it just plugs in, uses existing hardware. Boom. You don't have to have anything other than the spatial joystick, and you don't have to learn how to send information out on another port or anything like that. Again, like I said, the solution they have with the Sega, fantastic. This is just a more direct solution, and not quite as complicated to use, is my goal. The other thing that will happen with this, because the directional control pad is on just one axis of the joystick control, okay, is I could use a Y adapter with these. You lose the 4 buttons, and you'll lose one of the fire buttons. But then you can plug in with the Y adapters, wired correctly, 4 joysticks, okay? So the 4 joystick requests that John Lidville did years ago, I think somebody needs to build something that would use 4 joysticks on a Coco, is actually the origin of me coming up with this particular project. It sat on the background because nobody seemed to be interested after Toadette until we had somebody that requested some things about joystick, a programmer, and I got talking to him, says, can you use this? Because I didn't want to do a game and me be the only person using it and people thinking I'm making people buy this expensive joystick just to play my game, and I'm the only one there. And so once I got buy-in with somebody else who's interested in it, and I have a couple other people the game programmers have shown interest in it, it makes it more doable without thinking I'm just did this to lock people into my game. It's not the idea. I didn't want that to come across to the community. This is done so we have a easy to use joypad that's Coco specific that supports the extra buttons. And of course, I've got stuff, there'll probably be an arcade version with this, the full arcade joystick stuff with that. And so ideas build up on other ideas. And so you have to look at how things will work. So I've been doing a lot of R&D and on the Risen printers are totally technology what I'm used to using. And we do have looks like it's going to be a very nice end product with it. And again, back in the day, it took a professional big manufacturer to come up with something that looked nice. I think we're going to have now. But that's the way the technology has changed. Any questions so far?
You mentioned it's gonna have a dual mode switch at this point to 2 analog, or it's not gonna do that?
No, it cannot do analog. Okay? But the dual mode will allow it to use the standard games and stuff that it's programmed for this the directional control. So if you use like a Sega joystick on it with an adapter, okay, and it's not using the extra buttons, like Linville's adapter does, or Atari, joystick, and it'll play, then it will play with this. okay, but it doesn't do analog. And to enable something like that, it'd be kind of hard to find the right controller to do that, for that to enable the analog. And then you would have to have a microcontroller in there to convert stuff, okay? And that's taken it out of the era, which I don't mind that. Some purists might.
Right.
But this solution, except for the case, is period correct. And
Well, I mean, we had Atari, switch style joystick adapters back in '82.
yeah, so this is period correct as far as the interior of it, okay? And the outside, yeah, it's not, prison printing wasn't available for then, but a manufacturer could have done injection mold, okay?
Yeah,
And
this
this-
is really expensive back.
Yeah, this design, so far, I've tried to design it where it has the angles and everything on it to be injection, that it could be injected molded. Okay? I don't think there's funding out there in there to do that. There is a communities out there that people are doing their own injection molding for things. I'm not sure what the limit. I know we can go up to like a 3 cubic inch shot size. And I don't remember what the size on the Coco. I've been trying to watch that on this, whether it would do that or not. This is less than 3 cubic inch in the shot size. We'll do this, okay? As all the things I've been calculating, okay? Now, I could be off. I could be totally wrong. But you could probably build with stuff people have out there available, something to do a 3 cubic inch shot for less than $1,000. Okay. Now the next thing is do the mold. Okay. I have a resin printer. It is supposed to be able to handle a mold for low product quality. Okay, if you use like resin in it. We do have a community member who has a commercial resin printer. It definitely can do molds. But I don't know how big of size the resin printing molds will handle. Okay. They will handle small things. It's like the buttons and stuff and the joypad controller. We could mold those. We had an injection molding machine. We could do replacement keys. Okay, for the Coco. We had a injection molding that would match the Coco or very close as we could get it modeled. Okay. I have gone as far as modeling one of the keys, rows of the keys on the Coco, and it does fit on the keyboard. I haven't took time to do the others. I will probably do the others. And again, it's just part of my.
Out of curiosity, how expensive is it to do like little keys like that? Like if somebody broke a key or you missing on a.
It actually doesn't cost very much to print per cost, but it's a lot of time involved just to do the one. I mean, if you build in batches of them, and you could easily sell them and make money for $1 a piece, but you got to have them all perfected out. I'm not quite perfected with all my supports, everything where it comes out really good yet. I am still working finding the best resins and stuff to use that. The problem with the resin printers right now, and it's starting to change, especially the consumer ones you can buy that cost you thousands of dollars, is the resins that you are available for. Most of the resins, standard resins, are very brittle. Okay? You can drop a piece and it can shatter if it hits harder. They are now starting to sell what they call ABS-like resins. Those have more flexibility. They don't shatter as much, okay? And so I have that, which I'm trying to qualify and getting things worked out in my resin printers. So I have 2 resin printers, and one's a lot bigger. Both of these will mold one of these. The smaller one will mold one of these at a time, one part of it. The bigger one can handle multiple of this joystick size at once, probably the top and bottom at the same time. Okay, and the demo that I've showed at the show, all the key tops and everything with that that's in there, those are all 3D printed, resin printed. And so we have those things you do with that. And so there's a lot of things you have to take for it. We basically have to become miniature manufacturers to do this stuff that really looks nice. And, the fact of doing something, for yourself, there's a lot of things you do that. But if you want to do something, Sal, you take pride in your work, you want to make good quality of work. And, I look at my Cocoa Pie case that I do and I go like, this isn't really the quality I want. But if
Still pretty nice.
yeah, and that's what everybody in the community says, they're pretty
I
nice.
got one.
Yeah, that's what they say, okay? But if the compromises I had to make to be able to print that in a reasonable period of time, that the cost didn't double, okay? And so to the price where people could afford, I did have somebody say, well, I might actually buy one double price, yeah.
Mhm.
But, there might be a few in the community who would do that, but that's not enough. That wouldn't have been enough to pay for the development, okay? And to do that. And so we have to make those compromises when we manufacture stuff. So, okay, I got to do it within a reasonable period of time that I'm willing to manufacture it. I have to charge enough that, okay, well, I'm getting enough of this, okay, I'll do it again. If it's too much work, and you don't get enough, you're like, okay, this is not worthwhile doing. You have to balance all those points and do that. And so those are the things you do. And with the Cocoa Pad, I'm always working and trying to think of what game I'm going to put this with, that I'm going to do. I want at least a simple game to go with the joystick when it's sold, so you get it. Okay, if you buy the joystick, you'll have something to play with it immediately. And I've been talking to, like I said, some other game developers, and they showed some interest in writing games for this. Okay, and so that's a big win, I think, because I think it'll change.
Yeah, no, after you're done,
Sure.
I have another question.
Sure, you're what? You're fine.
You mentioned earlier that in other retro communities, they have found original molds.
Yeah.
Has anybody attempted to find molds for the original? I feel like there were enough manufacturing plants here in
Well,
Korea.
yeah.
There
well-
must be molds somewhere, right? Has
Well,
anybody tried to
This
find?
would be something Boise or Curtis might have come more across.
I have not come across anything like that.
Has anybody even tried?
I don't know.
Like,
That'd be a
Boise-
question that.
Boise, I think, has talked to some of the people that might have been involved with the original, like John Prickett and others that were someone
Yeah.
involved. But a lot of stuff stayed with Tandy after they left, and then what happened after Tandy got sold down the line.
Yeah.
It's just like trying to find who has the rights to.
Yeah. One of the molds they found was actually found somewhere in a scrapyard, and somebody identified it. Okay, and they were able to buy it for the scrap metal price. Okay, you have to understand.
Very good guitar. ET cartridge.
Just as I'm talking about, these cases, and I think something like this could be molded in a small quantity, okay, by individual with enough equipment. Okay, now I don't know exactly what that equipment level is at, okay, because you go above that, what I was talking about, the 3-shot ounce, and go something more. The prices for even the small ejection main now jumps to $4,000 and things on up. Will our community support that? And the other thing is, to do anything like that, you've got to have the quantity. It's just like I just informed Eric, with the shortage of Raspberry Pis, I'm not doing enough quantities of these Pi cases to cover the bad ones that happen on 3D prints. There's always those failures that it happens, okay? The plastic is not in tolerance the way it should be. Or I showed him one case out there, it's white, it starts out white, and then I got a big blue band on the bottom, okay? Same real plastic. And so you have those you can't sell, you have to cover for that. So you have to have volume. And so my Cocoa Pie cases are gonna go up in price. I'm not getting the volume. Could that change in the future where Raspberry Pis come down and people start buying? They could go back down a little bit. But just with the volume I produce, it has to go up some amount.
I'm completely ignorant to 3D printing and all the challenges, but is there a way to do a 3D scan of things that then you could reverse engineer a mold?
You can do 3D scans.
I know that doesn't always help in 3D printing, because 3D printing you got to have scaffolding and whatnot to.
Well, those are added after the scan.
Yeah.
There is scanners out there, and they claim certain resolutions and stuff. But so far, what I've been able to hear is that still has to be cleaned up afterwards. You got to have software that can handle that to do that. And I haven't had the money to go within the scanner level to do that.
I just didn't know if it was state of the art that we can
It's possible.
3D scan something and create an injection mold system, not just for 3D printing. Possibly.
Yeah, some of that works better for small pieces. They're promoting this to companies to do that, but most of the time that's a pretty expensive scanner. Again, it's looks like it's out of our community price range.
I think you need to look for some investors, man. So that's
Okay.
some seed money.
And you could get. I was thinking it was like around $300. You could do something that has a 1 ounce injection there, which would start doing little small switches or keycaps or something could be done with that. And I've been looking in my area in mid-Michigan and trying to see if I can find an injection mold manufacturer. We have a lot of plastic manufacturers in the area because they supply to the automobile industry. But most of them I found are in the thermal molding, where they're pressing or do extrusion instead of a mold. Okay, which we need, molds to be able to do it, to do what the pieces we need. And so I haven't found that yet. I've ran across truckers who delivered resin stuff, asked them questions, and kind of looked on the web and finding. I know there's our places in Michigan, but there's southern Michigan, and they talk pretty much about doing automobile stuff, and I think they're too big a quantity. I've been hoping I'd find, a fairly small shop that, might be willing to work with somebody, but I haven't even got a hint at getting that done, okay? And of course, if you have the injection mold now, it's finding the right plastics and the sourcing the plastics and the quantity. You could be ending up having to buy, a barrel of their pellets, or 50 pounds of it at once, and paying $500 for the plastic. So there's a lot of issues with the injection molding that I think could become overcome if somebody had the money to do it and the will to do it.